pitch. A swing and a long drive. Deep left. Way back. Gone!
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Baseball America playoff podcast. I'm Kyle Glaser, joined by JJ Cooper. JJ, what a finish to the ALCS and what a World Series matchup that awaits us. Starting with everything that took place on Saturday, Jose Altuve, walk-off home run after DJ LeMahieu had homered in the top of the ninth to tie it. Just as that game went on and finished up, what was your overarching thoughts about everything that took place, that series and that game?
Okay, I'm going to admit something embarrassing right now.
You fell asleep.
I saw LeMahieu's homer live, but I will say, there was no active decision to fall asleep. At the same time, if I replay it in my head, so I didn't do all the things I needed to do to stay up. I was in bed, the TV was on. I knew that, and the next thing that happened for me was I hear the announcer talk about an Aaron Judge catch. And I wake up, kind of shake my head. I look at the clock and the clock says 4:35 a.m. And at the time, I thought for a split second that the game was still going on. And I had, missed 4 hours of baseball. And then realized that they were replaying the game because, wait a second, this is before the inning that I was in. So they're replaying the game, hopped on the DVR at 4:30 in the morning, watched the bottom of the ninth, watched Altuve homer, then went back to bed again. And, the thought I had, so admitting that I missed it live, but the thought I had at the time is that, Jose Altuve really has done an outstanding job. He's been so important for these Astros, but he also has really kind of established himself as one of the players of this decade. And having signature moments like that really helped that too. It was an amazing moment for the Astros. It was an amazing moment for Altuve. And what was a crazy game. I think the most we had anyone go was 2 2/3 innings in that game. I mean, bullpen game versus bullpen game with the World Series berth on the line is pretty remarkable. But what were your thoughts, Kyle?
I mean, it was an incredible game, an incredible finish. But I actually want to hit on something with you because this is something that we've talked about both in the office and on social media. You mentioned falling asleep, game 6 of an ALCS between two titans of baseball. Do you feel like Major League Baseball should make an effort to move these games to an earlier start time, even though this was a Saturday night? It was 5 p.m. on the West Coast, 8 p.m. on the East Coast, didn't end until after midnight on the East Coast. And so much of what we talk about or what baseball talks about is growing the game for young fans, ensuring the next generation is invested and interested in Major League Baseball. And a big part of that is going to games early in life, watching games in their early years. And with critical postseason games not ending until 11 or midnight Eastern, 11 or 10 Central, you're cutting out the half of the country. And my feeling on this is someone who's West Coast born and raised, grew up with 10 a.m. NFL football, 9 a.m. college football, 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. Baseball starts, and then living on the East Coast and seeing what that was like for 3 years. I fully endorse Major League Baseball starting every playoff game no later than 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I think part of that for me is, again, as someone who grew up their entire life on the West Coast, we're very, very used to, okay, it's at 4 today. Oh, it's at 4:30 today. I mean, that's such a non-issue for us, and especially in the age of streaming, especially in the age of you can record anything on TV now as well. I don't feel like it's that big of a deal where, okay, you're going to miss the first couple innings at work and don't get home till 5:30 or 6. You can still know what's happening. You can still watch what's happening. So for me, I actually think Major League Baseball should set a hard and fast standard of no game starts later than 7:30 p.m. Eastern and preferably 7 p.m. Eastern, just because I think the future fan base loss for them in terms of the kids who cannot stay up and watch these games is so detrimental to the future. I actually think it's something they should implement very, very soon. What are your thoughts on that?
Some agreement, some disagreement. I mean, one of the problems that we do have, and this is something that they continue to try to work on and they don't really have a good answer for, is when you have an 8 o'clock game and it takes 2 hours and 45 minutes, then that window, okay, again, ideally you start at 7 and then everyone gets to see it. But okay, 8 to 10:45 is one thing. You know, there were 2 9-inning games in that Astros Yankees series that took over 4 hours. And I know I've heard every comment about baseball. The great thing about baseball is it doesn't have a clock. And I also do love the Bill James comment about, no, it always did have a clock. You know,
It was the sun.
It was the sun. But the reality of it is that, you know, look, the kids' argument, I follow it in many ways. At the same time, no matter when you start these games, it's going to be hard for kids to stay up till the end of them. If the game's ending at 10:30, it's going to be, it depends on what age kid are we talking about? My kids are not allowed to be up to 10:30, especially on a school night. You know, there's all that. But on top of that, I do worry. The reality of it is that even a tense playoff game, if it takes over 4 hours for a 9-inning game, it's hard for anyone to really devote their full attention to that. Now, I mean, there were, I'm sure, a bazillion Astros fans and a bazillion Yankees fans who were living and dying at every pitch. I am also saying, though, that I bet you that there were a lot of baseball fans of other teams who checked in and out, who may have been keeping an eye on it. But at the same time, they weren't going to devote 4 hours that went till after midnight on the East Coast, even in what was a very compelling game. You know, I do think that there is a certain pace aspect of this that is part of this. Now, you know, again, I don't want to change things dramatically, but just to change them or anything like that. But we do have to figure out a way. Is there a way? I get it. If you're a team, if you're a player, if you're a pitcher, everything right now points to take more time, because you don't want to ever rush something in a game of that magnitude. But at the same time, 4+ hour games is a regular course in the postseason for a non-extra inning game. Extra innings, different story. But for a non-extra inning game, you could have started that game at 7. Kids would have been able to make it to the end of it. Most kids. Now,
And that's fair. There is absolutely a pace consideration here, but I think there are certain things Major League Baseball can control, and I think this is one thing that would make it at least a little more potentially palatable in terms of, again, the things they can control. So that for me is start with this and see if it helps.
Right. Well, the thing I would say also with that, though, is that is how baseball works. If I have a choice, again, I'm an East Coaster, but there, you know, with some of these games that were going on when we have multiple games, and obviously when you have the division series, we're not talking about these things, you know, like, I mean, the division series is going to have some late games. You're putting 4, right? You know, there are days you're putting 4 games on in a day, but I have no problem. There were multiple of those games where I would head home at the end of a work day and I'm listening to the game on the way home. And I like listening to baseball, but I would much rather keep up with the early innings of a game listening to it, and then to get home to finish the late innings of a game on TV at home, like what you're talking about on the West Coast. Yeah, if a game starts at, let's say, 7 or 7:30, and you spend the first hour and a half of that game, because it's the West Coast, in a car on the way home, well, you're still home you would have been home easily for the climactic moments of that game. Now, it doesn't always work that way. If you were doing that in the Cardinals-Braves game 5, you would have been not watching the end of that game. I get it. But the reality of it is yeah, I would rather, if I'm going to have to kind of scramble on a part of a game, I'd rather scramble on the first 3 innings than the last 3, generally.
Absolutely. So that's something I'll be interested to see if Major League Baseball makes any adjustments eventually. But going back to Game 6, I think what stood out for me, really this entire series, but especially Game 6, is just how complete this Astros team is. Again, so much focus has rightfully been on this offense. They led the majors in batting average, on base percentage, slugging percentage. But this is an Astros team that's not just, hey, we're going to go out and try and slug you to death. I mean, this is a really, really good team that from a situational hitting perspective is among the best in baseball. And they just play a complete game. We saw defensively Josh Reddick making a great catch in right field to potentially save some runs in a long inning. Michael Brantley, a great diving catch in left field, and then a bullet one hopper to first base for the double play to stymie the Yankees in the 7th inning. We saw the double play turn from Altuve and Correa, just great all the way around to end the Yankees inning there. Throughout the series, we saw them execute hit and runs. We saw them execute rundowns when someone made a mistake. They did the little things to get the runners to second and third, and it paid off with a sinker ball or throwing a wild pitch to lead to a run. This Astros team just continues to show they're one of the most complete teams I can remember in terms of they have so many ways to beat you, and they are so fundamentally sound in all aspects of the game. They have ace pitchers. They have a lineup where anyone can take you yard at any time. But they know when to shorten up, and they do it effectively. They know how to play small ball. They do it effectively. They play great defense that's just a backbreaker to the opposing team. I thought this was an excellent showcase series for the Astros. They won the bullpen game. They had in so many different arms they could turn to. And we talk about good situational hitting. You know, that bottom of the 9th, Chapman gets the first 2 outs, no problem. I thought Springer did a great job staying calm, staying composed, make Chapman come into the strike zone to him. It's really easy in that situation to go up, start hacking away, trying to play hero. I thought that was a great veteran at bat by Springer to go up there and draw that walk. Then you have Jose Altuve come up, takes 2 fastballs for a ball. Again, slow heartbeat, not being over anxious. Chapman hangs a slider. I mean, that was a hanging slider, and Altuve took it for a strike, said, okay, show that to me again. Chapman threw it again. Altuve hit it off the facade in left field. I just thought the Astros showed such an ability to have such high quality at bats, play high quality defense. We saw them make big pitches throughout the series. This, to me, was just an impressive showcase of how and why the Astros won 107 games this year. And I think going into the World Series, yes, they played 6 games. Yes, they're not going to have the same rest the Nationals do. But to me, I feel like they're going in a great spot given everything that transpired throughout that series and throughout Game 6.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that they're the best team in baseball. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to beat the Nats in the World Series, but I do think I think if you watch that series, it's interesting. I saw someone tweeted about, you know, that there seemed to be too much focus on the Yankees pitching problems, that, you know, their inadequacies in pitching because their offense didn't hit with runners in scoring position. Their defense wasn't as good as the Astros as well. And all those things are true. But I would agree with those. But I would say also, though, the reason that the focus is on the Yankees pitching is that there's nothing in the Yankees lineup, but as they head into their offseason, there's no part of that Yankees lineup where you go, you know, if they had just done X. Now, they couldn't count on that Stanton got hurt, but that lineup 1 to 9, there's not a whole lot of guys there that you want to replace. But if you look at their pitching, it does stand out. I would say if you were ranking the starting pitchers in that series, number 1 in that series is an Astro. Number 2 in that series is an Astro. And when you get to 3, it could be an Astro. And that's what stands out about this Astros team is that they have a lineup that I would say is not as deep as that Yankees lineup was, maybe like a position shy of being as deep as that Yankees lineup. But I think they are better defensively. They were better defensively. And their starting pitching is just exceptional. And that's the thing that stands out to me as we shift it to looking at the World Series. The key for this Nationals team is they have incredible starting pitching. But I don't think it's better. I don't think at the back of the rotation it is better than the Astros. Clearly, it is something where Anibal Sanchez versus Astros bullpen day advantage Nationals.
Big advantage Nationals.
But that's going to happen probably, one time in the series?
Well, this is where for me, so again, I have a hard time picking against the Astros with no disrespect to the Nationals. This is a really good Nationals team that if you lop off the first 50 games of the season and just look at everything that took place, the final 112 plus the postseason, they match up with any team in baseball winning percentage-wise. I think for me, that is where the Nationals potentially would, if they do win this series, that would be a key moment where, say, the Nationals are able to take one of the first 3 or even 2 of the first 3, and all of a sudden you get to Game 4, and now you have the clear edge there. And then moving forward after that, you're potentially still looking at, depending on what the Astros do and how they choose to play this, you could potentially get one of Verlander or Cole on short rest. Again, there's a couple different ways things could go, and we don't know what the pitching matchups are going to be officially yet. But
I think Cole has been confirmed.
That's where
as,
something
game
could
one.
turn in the Nationals' favor if they win that game 4 because they have that fourth starter, and then all of a sudden some of the Astros are not pitching on full rest depending on where the series goes. But again, to me, the Astros are the best team in baseball. They have been start to finish. It's just very, very difficult to pick against them. They're at home. They're playing really good baseball right now. I do give the edge to the Astros. Let's call it 6 games, Astros in 6.
Yeah, that's my prediction as well. It's hard to predict 5. I'm going to go Astros in 6 as well.
What for you is going to be the key to this series? Something, it could be surface level, or is there something under the radar? What for you is going to be the key to this series?
Defense. I think the Astros defense is really good. Again, I mean, it's a short series. The Nationals could obviously win it. Juan Soto could basically continue to add to what has been a pretty remarkable start to a young career. Anthony Rendon could put a team on his back, and we come out of it saying it's the Anthony Rendon World Series. But at the same time, we could just as easily say that about Alex Bregman or Jose Altuve or George Springer or Carlos Correa or the thing I will say to kind of, that does stand out to me that I love about this overall is the fact that I do feel like that this is a very compelling, matchup. We're either going to see the Astros win a second World Series in a very short period of time, which is compelling, or we're going to see the Nationals win their first World Series, which is compelling. Either one of those. And by the way, when I say Nationals win their first, I'm sorry, I'm not necessarily linking it to what the Senators did. That's convoluted. It's very difficult, complicated, and everything. But I will say, it's the first National. It'll be the first Nationals' first World Series win. So it should be a compelling series. I'm very excited by it. I also am a little saddened to realize, especially with the AFL wrapping up earlier this year, that we will be down to Winter League Baseball very, very soon because the AFL is wrapping up before long. You're getting ready to head out there. And I guess we also have Premier 12 coming up. But we only have 7 more, at most 7 more Major League games. And then the offseason has arrived. So I'm very excited, and I hope I will be able to stay awake through all innings of all 7 games.
Yeah, no, it'll be a good series. And again, I think for me, the biggest key is just going to be how deep the national starters can go. We've talked about they really have 2 relievers in Sean Doolittle and Daniel Hudson, although Tanner Rady's pitched well in limited spots. It's just going to be difficult to do that. This is an Astros team that, as we mentioned, ranked first in the majors in batting average, on base percentage, slugging percentage, mostly every offensive category, where the Nationals did what they did against a Cardinals team that ranked 22nd in the majors in OPS this year, again, where the Astros were first. So it'll be difficult. I think if the Nationals pull this off, they're going to have to get 7 innings again from Sanchez, Scherzer, Strasburg. We'll see if they can get it. It'll be difficult, but that's how, if it happened, that's how it would have to happen.
And again, but the thing I will also say is, as good as those guys are, Garrett Cole's the guy who seems like he's pitching the best right now.
I would agree with that. And that's what's going to make this such a fun series. I tweeted about it Saturday night that this is going to be good. This is going to be really good with the pitching matchups. So we'll look forward to it, and we'll continue to have podcasts after every World Series game. So keep it here at Baseball America, as JJ mentioned. I'm heading out to Arizona to do some coverage of the final week of the Arizona Fall League, as well as Team USA's training camp before they get set to go to Premier 12 and qualify for the Olympics. So we've got a lot of good stuff coming up here at baseballamerica.com. Go ahead and then give us a visit. We've got draft report cards up right now. JJ had his breaking story about Major League Baseball's proposal for minor league realignment. So a lot of good stuff, and then now's the time to subscribe. For JJ Cooper, I'm Kyle Glaser. This has been another edition of the Baseball America podcast. Thanks, and enjoy the World Series, everybody.